and we will get started. Today's class is about different practices of meditation, so we'll be trying a few things. And I wanted to actually start as our opening devotional with a sensory meditation exercise. So, although for most meditations, we close our eyes, for this one, I'm going to invite you to leave them open. And make sure you're sitting comfortably. And notice your body in the space. Take a few deep breaths. And this is called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 meditation. I'm going to invite you to look around and notice 5 things you can see. If you wish, you may close your eyes at this point. And I want you to notice 4 things that you're touching. Perhaps your arms are touching the chair, your feet touching the floor. You may be able to notice the air around you. 4 things you're touching. Now I invite you to notice 3 things that you can hear. Can you perceive 2 things that you can smell? And lastly, 1 thing that you're tasting. Take another moment. Bring your awareness back to your breath. Thank you, God, for the gift of our senses, for the wonderful world you give us to experience, and all the ways we can experience it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. You can go ahead and open your eyes. I'm going to hope that was a peaceful practice for you. A lowering of anxiety is one of the great benefits of meditation. There are a bunch of them. If you get online and you start doing the science, you'll find out that meditation has been shown to boost your immune system, decrease your pain sensitivity. Some people have shown that it boosts creativity and productivity in the workplace. So there are workplaces that have meditation stations. It's also, they think it's possible that it can lower blood pressure, although they're not sure whether that's an actual lowering of blood pressure from the meditation itself or just because it lowers stress. And then that's lowering of stress lowers the blood pressure. But functionally, it's the same thing. It's also said to boost both your emotional intelligence and your social functioning. So there's a lot of reasons to do it. And there's a bunch of different ways to do it because not everybody can sit still. So for some of us, it takes a focus. We'll talk later about centering prayer, which is what I think of as hardcore meditation, where there's nothing going on but your breath. But this sensory meditation that I just led you through is one good way to handle getting your mind to calm down. You're giving your mind something to focus on rather than just continually sweeping the clouds out of your sky, if you will, and trying not to think of anything. Another way that you can focus your mind is to put your focus on your breath. There's a practice that I've used a number of times. It's strange because I was taught it as a singer rather than as a meditator. It's called the Farinelli exercise when you're doing it as a singer. It's called square breathing when you do it as a meditator. And the idea is just to watch your breath. In for 4, wait for 4, out for 4, and wait empty for 4. Let's try that for just a couple of breath cycles. Go ahead and close your eyes if you want. In for 4, 3, 2, 1. Wait, 3, 2, 1. Out, 3, 2, 1. And wait, 3, 2, 1. In for 4, 3, 2, 1. Wait, 3, 2, 1. Out for 4, 3, 2, 1. And wait for 4, 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and open. I know for me, the singer in me fights with the asthmatic in me, and therefore that practice does not actually work for me. I'll happily count it for the rest of you, but I end up panicking and gasping for breath. Not every meditation practice is going to work for every person, and that is okay. You are more than welcome to find the things that work for you. And I'm going to segue into a couple of books and apps that are out there for you to do that exploration. I want to particularly lift up one called 10% Happier. It's a free podcast. It's connected to a website. It's also a book that was written by a reporter. I think he reports for CBS, named Dan Harris. If I remember correctly, he's on the weekend desk at Good Morning America. And he came to meditation because he had a panic attack on live TV.
Oh, yeah,
that guy.
Yeah.
And had to realize he had to do something to tame his brain just a little bit. So as I said, the book's called 10% Happier. He has a podcast that's completely free and has some guided meditations on it. He also has an app, and I believe that one is a subscription app. There are a bunch of other apps out there. I'm just gonna name them. Headspace is a pretty famous one. Calm. Those are both a purchase. They give you a free trial, and then if you decide you love it, then you can go ahead and subscribe. I use one called Insight Timer because I am a cheapskate. Yes, there it is. And Insight Timer is free.
Yep.
It will simply time, with a chime at the beginning and a chime at the end, if that's what you want. If you want just straight up basic meditation, there are some guided meditations on it that are also free. And then there are courses of meditations that usually end up being behind a paywall. But all of those are useful. I did find a few apps that are specifically Christian guided meditations. Sometimes, and you'll find this even in the most basic meditation practices on YouTube, you'll see in the comments that people are like, you didn't mention Jesus. This is going to lead you astray and lead you into some kind of demonic possession. I don't get it, but there we are. If you are a person who really wants them to mention Jesus, just so we baptize this practice, meditation has happened in a bunch of different traditions, including the Christian tradition. It is fine, but it is also used in the Buddhist tradition. So if you want a specifically Christian app, there are two of them that I found. One is called Reflect, and that will work if you have an Android phone. If you have an iPhone, there's one called Recenter with Christ. They're both perfectly lovely apps, and they're very definitely Christian. So they will take you through a guided Christian meditation. All right, and that cleans me. So I'm going to turn you over to David, who is doing our main practice today.
So I'm just going to mention a few things to add on to what Jen has mentioned. So we have a wonderful resource in the Oberlin community in Marian Jones and his wife Kate. They are over in the philosophy department. He is a practitioner and a leader of mindfulness exercises and regularly offers a mindful self-compassion program. I've been through it. It's multiple weeks in an evening, and each session's a couple hours long. There's a mini retreat towards the end. He usually offers a sample program at the public library before he actually does a class to see if people will find it of interest. That's how I got into it. I found it very helpful. In addition to the things Jen mentioned, there have been a number of studies that show that mindfulness and meditative exercises can help with lower back pain. That was a big help to me. Jen mentioned the regular breathing, and so I find that one way that I practice that, I've certainly experienced it at choir rehearsals, what you've described, Jen, but one way that's helped me to relax into it is doing an exercise when I'm in the pool swimming. So I'll swim across the pool taking a breath every 3 strokes, and then I'll do 2 laps every 5 strokes, and then every 7 strokes, and you can go on from there. But the idea is not only do you try to breathe in evenly over the stroke pattern, you try and breathe out evenly over it. And it is a way of sort of relaxing yourself and in the pool building some confidence in your breathing and recognizing that, yes, I'm totally fine and nothing's bad going to happen. And if you're doing the exercise and you need an extra breath, you just take one. It's no big deal. But it's just another way of aligning your body with a breathing pattern. So you might think of other forms of exercise that you do. I know that when people lift weights, part of the weightlifting routine is the breathing is a part of the routine. So good connection there. And then a final comment on, or just an additional comment on Insight Timer. I have not used it much for meditation. What I use it for is to help me not cheat when I'm doing my back exercises and to make sure I'm actually doing them for a full 10 or 15 minutes. What I like about it is it's a very gentle, you can pick your sound, but you can pick a nice sort of one of those Tibetan bowl sounds. And that's a nice way to end your exercises without having a jarring alarm clock or an egg timer or something equally obnoxious going off. So what we're going to do is I'm going to lead you an experience of guided meditation. You may have experienced these at some point in your life. For several years, we did a guided meditation as part of our All Saints experience annually on a Sunday morning. We've stepped away from that for the last few years. Um, but oftentimes, if you're on a retreat, this will be part of the experience. Is somebody will lead you through a guided meditation, which is essentially a meditation where someone is reading a script slowly and meditatively, and you are going on a journey. They are intentionally designed to be very open ended. Everybody's experience is designed to be unique. There's no right or wrong responses to this. In the resources that Jen will be providing, there are links to a variety of places that you can go to watch a video, for example, that will lead you through a guided meditation. So this morning, I'm going to invite you to into a brief guided meditation that we'll actually experience together. So to begin with, I invite you to just take a deep breath. And another one. And if you feel comfortable doing so, I invite you to close your eyes as we begin the meditation. Imagine that you are walking down the beach in the late afternoon. A gentle breeze is blowing, and the sea air is caressing your face. With each step, your feet sink a little into the sand. Seabirds call overhead, and you can hear the murmur of the waves as they come in and as they go out. You've come to the beach to wrestle with a problem, something that's been bothering you for some time. Suddenly, you realize that Jesus is walking beside you and has been walking with you for some time. You walk along with Jesus, not saying anything, while the waves roll in and out and the seabirds call. Then, after a time together, you begin to tell Jesus your problems. You walk and talk for a long time, and Jesus listens to you. Finally, you finish as the sun begins to set over the ocean. For the first time, Jesus turns and looks at you. He is illuminated by the golden light of the sunset. And as you see your reflection in his eyes, you realize that you are illuminated by the same light. In that moment, seeing yourself in Jesus' eyes, you find the answer to the problem that has bothered you for so long. Jesus smiles, and you do too, and you begin to walk home together. The seabirds call, the breeze blows, and the waves continue on as before. But as you return home, you are at peace. Now I invite you to return to this room. When you are ready, open your eyes and rejoin us here, filled with Christ's love and peace. Maybe just take a couple of deep breaths. Anything that you'd like to share out of that experience?
I felt it was very peaceful. I could really visualize it. I could smell the water. I could feel the sand on my feet. And then you know, could see myself, I could hear myself talking to Jesus and telling him what, us having, just getting all this off my mind, and him looking at me and like just taking all that away and feeling the peace. That was great.
Thanks, Asia. So as I mentioned, there'll be some links in the resource Jen will send out. And Jen, I'll send you the link to this. This particular guided meditation came off of a website called progressivechristianity.org. So I'll send you the direct link. This was one of their example pieces. They have an article on how to lead a guided meditation, and it says, this is a good meditation, and this is the example. And then they say, this is a bad meditation, and here's an example. So I chose the good one.
Good.
I'm a little intrigued by the nature of the bad one.
So the bad one has too many specifics. It begins the same way. You are on the beach, blah, 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 and you've come there to wrestle with an issue about you and your roommate.
Oh, okay, got it.
Things like that. It's too specific. It doesn't allow enough room for people to just enter in on their own.
Cool. All right. So thank you, David. Let me move on to the idea of centering prayer. This is a rather specific type of meditation. It was created originally by Father Thomas Keating, who founded a group called the Center for Contemplative Outreach. And their idea is to introduce more broadly to lay people this concept of contemplative prayer. And contemplative prayer reminds me very much of what I think of as basic Zen meditation. The idea being that you don't really want to think about anything. You just want to clear your mind for however long. Centering prayer to recall you when you find that you're thinking about something. You pick a sacred word. For example, Jesus, or peace. Or it could just be a neutral word, something like the color yellow. And as you find yourself wrapped up in a thought, you go back and repeat that sacred word 3 times while taking 3 deep breaths. And then go back to the nothing. You're not supposed to be saying the sacred word the whole time. It's there to lead you back into the nothing practice. And as the person who taught this practice to me said, you are not to get mad at yourself. You are not to get frustrated and go, Jesus, 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 as you come back in. You are supposed to be going up. It's that thing that happens. I'm having a thought. As the Zen people say, the thoughts are the clouds in your sky. And you sort of sweep the clouds out of my sky and sit here and be in a no thought place. Centering prayer as properly practiced. It's a Catholic practice, so there's a way to do it. Catholics have rules. I'm an ex-Catholic, so I would know. You're supposed to do it for 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening. I have never been able to achieve that full practice. I am lucky if I can clear my brain for 5. But I would suggest personally not starting with 20 minutes right off the bat, but working your way up. An insight timer is great for that because I find that the most common thought that I have in my sky is, I wonder how many minutes are left. I wonder how long I still have to sit here. How close are we? And if I don't have a timer set, I will open my eyes and look at the clock. I am not basically wound for this kind of practice, but that's okay. But if I've got that timer set, it's like, there's a ding. You'll hear the ding. Let it go. If you want to see Father Thomas Keating himself leading this practice, I actually have a video in the resources of him leading this practice at Folsom Prison in California. Yeah, so he leads you in with about 4 minutes of talking, and then the screen literally goes black for 20 minutes. And then he brings you out with a very slow recitation of the Lord's Prayer. And then we're done. I also gave you, because like I said, I can't sit for 20 minutes. I gave you a 10-minute practice, which I find considerably more accessible. And if you scroll down in the comments in that one, you'll find the whole, there's no Jesus in this practice. This is dangerous and distressing. But that's okay. But that's centering prayer. So if you're good at this sitting still thing, if you're not a fidgety sort, it's certainly something to try. We did this when I did my spiritual practices class, and it is a useful thing for many of us. For our one member of the class who had ADHD, it was not a cool experience. So that's what next week's about. It's for people who can't sit still. I will lead us into loving kindness meditation in a little bit, basically as a way of closing out the class. But I wanted to ask two groups of questions. The first one is, are there questions that came up as we did any of these practices, or are there things from your own meditative practice that you already have that you would like to share?
One thing that I learned some years ago was the diaphragmatic breathing. And that I found extremely helpful. At first, I struggled with it because I'd feel like, I can't breathe, I can't, And, but and the guy, he was great. He was a fellow at the Cleveland Clinic, and he hooked me up to the machine so I could actually see my breaths and how to release and, how to hold. And that's something that I've continued to practice since then. So I found that very helpful.
There are also a couple of yogic practices for breathing where you start with the diaphragm, you fill that, and then you actually let your shoulders rise, which is something I've been taught as a singer, never, ever, ever to let yourself do, but that's okay. So that you're filling first from the bottom to the top, if you will, and then emptying out the same way. The yogic practice of pranayama also works for some people, which is the nasal breathing, to go in one nostril and out the other. Some people find it very relaxing. I have allergies, so I've never actually been able to achieve this practice because one nostril or another is always clogged. But I know that it works remarkably well for some folk. Anything else anybody would like to share about these kinds of practices? Anything we missed? David.
So you mentioned how the timer helps you not think about the time. That's one of the things that I've learned from when we've had multi-faith celebrations in town. The most recent one that comes to mind was before we started the tradition of the multi-faith Thanksgiving potluck, we had a multi-faith Thanksgiving celebration in Fairchild Chapel. And we typically invited John Sabin, who's a Buddhist, to lead a portion of that. And what I found helpful was he knew most of us were a bunch of meditation amateurs. So he would introduce the practice by saying, you don't need to close your eyes, just sort of downward gaze. And he would talk about just letting the thoughts come and go. But I think the most helpful thing for me was I knew John was in charge. So as much as I had my moments of like, this feels like this is an eternity, is it going to end soon? I could shut it off because I knew that whatever was going on, John had a plan. And so having, either a timer, or I'm sure there's resources online of having a person leading this, it allows you to sort of shut that off. I'd also mention as a resource that Jacques Rutsky, who's the Buddhist affiliate for Oberlin College, he leads sits at his home. And to the best of my knowledge, the Open Field Buddhists, which is the group that John Samon's connected with, has regular sits. They've tended, I don't know what they're doing for COVID, it's probably happening differently, but pre-COVID, they happened on Sunday mornings, unfortunately, at about the same time as First Church worship. But I would certainly grant you a pass if you wanted to go experience that. I'm sure it would be a lovely experience, and they would be delighted to have you with them. So if longer meditative experience you gravitate towards that, do know that there are people in town that offer those practices on a regular basis that you can connect with.
And am I right in remembering that the Unitarians also have a Tuesday night meditation group, or has that gone by the wayside?
I don't know the answer to that, but we could certainly find out by just emailing Mary Gregolia, who's the pastor of the church. So we could find that. We could easily find that out.
Because I know back in the day they had one, but I don't think I've checked in to notice whether it's still there.
And there also was a student group, again, not happening now because of COVID, I imagine, but the campus or college meditators group, which did not, some of them were Buddhist, but you didn't have to have any faith background to participate in that. It was just a meditation group. And my experience pre-COVID and post-COVID is that student groups on campus are usually delighted when community members show up to participate and support them in the things that they're doing. So you shouldn't feel shut out from something simply because it's on the campus. The simple way to know whether you'd be welcome or not is just contact the leader of the group and they'll tell you.
Another thing I wanted to ask about was actually some information and then asking about last week's class. I wanted to let everyone know that a link to the recording of that class will be in the next e-news that you get, along with the resource list from that class. And I'm curious, I don't know about anybody else, but I know it got me back into the journaling habit. Now, I'm not sure it's the world's most spiritual journal, but it made me go back to bullet journaling, which I got into and then got out of. Bullet journaling doesn't have to be spiritual at all. And I don't do pretty bullet journaling. It's very basic. I'm not the person that's going to go drawing pictures all over but I'm finding that it's useful sort of in the same way that meditation is in terms of being a brain dump. I don't have to constantly think about this because I know I've already written it down. And for me, that's huge because there's so many balls in the air right now, particularly with Advent going on momentarily, that's been huge for me. Asia, I know you weren't here last week, but I'm going to ask David and Linda if anything changed for them over the last week, or if you tried any of the practices from last time.
Well, yes, I did. I think anything that starts out with a notebook and colored pencils can't be bad. That's my idea of a good time, actually. So I bought myself a notebook with dividers, and I mean, I really went about this, and I haven't been quite so good about recording things in a systematic fashion, but I have the tools and I have the inspiration. And I should just say that one of the things that attracted me to this series is I do spend quite a lot of time contemplating, especially during COVID when I'm less frantically busy than I have been otherwise, have more options. But my sense is that it's kind of chaotic. And my hope was and is, and this has so far been fulfilled, that by thinking about this more methodically with other people, I can bring some order to the kinds of contemplative episodes in my life so that it won't just feel helter-skelter. And I have found that that's happening. I've been more disciplined about reading daily, the daily devotions that I subscribe to from the UCC, which I will admit in recent months I've deleted or ignored, but I've been more thoughtful about that. And also in book group, we're reading a book by Marilyn Robinson. Well, we're reading lots of books by Marilyn Robinson, but the book I've chosen is Gilead, which I've tried to read before, and I've found that it is a sort of meditation for me. And I've been, I think almost everything I've read through the eyes of how this fits into meditative practice. Now, I don't mean absolutely everything, but a lot of things I've noticed that there's a connection. So it's been really, last week was really important to me. And again, I'm celebrating my new notebook. It's purple.
Yay. And I'm with you on the colored pencils. Colored pencils are good things.
Yeah.
So the only time I journal is when I'm on a retreat and someone makes me do it, or it's strongly encouraged. It has been helpful when I did the UCC Credo program, which is for pastors to check in periodically for like it's a week-long program that the pension boards does. I did a lot of journaling, and that was a time that I was trying to discern some things. It was very helpful, but I will probably not be a journaler, and it's why I have a spiritual director that I actually talk things through with once a month. That seems to work better for me. Linda, you mentioned, reading. I think, and so my non-work related reading is almost always fiction. And I think that in itself can be a contemplative practice because you read a line over and over and you chew on it, and it takes me forever to read a book because I pause and put it down and think about it and pick it back up again. But I think that's, or poetry is another one. That's another, I think, can be a contemplative practice. The other thing I was going to mention, Jen, because you mentioned sort of the brain dump, and this is somewhat related. So for people that the way I've experienced that is I read a book a couple years ago that really changed the way I do my day-to-day administrative life. It was called Getting Things Done. And his big thing is you have to have an in-basket system that you can get everything out of your head. And what he correctly identified for me is I would just let things pile up on my desk, and the higher the piles got, the more anxious I became, because I sort of knew what was in there, but I was worried that I didn't know everything that was in there. So he has a system that I'm usually fairly good about following these days. Of things come in, you have to get them into some sort of mechanism, whether that's a to-do list or a to-do list app or whatever. But what it does is it removes the anxiety of carrying all this around in your head. That's not necessarily a spiritual practice, but maybe it's a way of making room for the spirit by getting this other junk out.
All right. Yeah. And yeah, actually the page, I haven't made one yet, but the bullet journaler that I was looking at literally calls a 2-page spread, brain dump. Nice. So that it's just the random things that you don't have another place for go there. That's right. And because I've done this, I actually have a page for the goofy jokes that my 11-year-old gives me so that I can share them with Kevin Jones when I go to guitar lesson, because there's constant guitar lesson jokes. So I'm sharing one of them with you.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
good.
yes.
Okay, which is, why did the chicken go to the seance?
I don't know, Jen. Why did the chicken go to the seance?
Thank you for that. To get to the other side.
Oh, God.
Oh.
That made me so happy. I'm like, I'm writing that down because I want to remember it. Sorry. It made me happy. What can I say?
Thumbs up.
All right. So we're about at 5 minutes till. So let me close this out with this is a Buddhist style meditation. It is called the loving kindness meditation. So I will invite you to either cast your gaze downward or close your eyes as you feel led. And once again, bring your awareness to your breath and to your body. Find a spot in your body that is calling itself to your attention. And see if you can consciously relax that. Find another spot in which you're feeling a bit of discomfort. Take a deep breath, and as you exhale, see if you can mitigate that discomfort a bit. And as you breathe, I invite you to consider your heart. And send these words to your heart. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I give and receive love. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I give and receive love. I invite you to call to mind someone you're close to. Picture them in front of you. Picture their heart. And as you breathe, send these words to that other person. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you give and receive love. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you give and receive love. As you continue to breathe, I invite you to call to mind an acquaintance, someone you do not know well. Picture that person in front of you. Imagine their heart. And send these words. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you give and receive love. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you give and receive love. As you continue to breathe, I invite you to picture in front of you someone with whom you have tension. Someone with whom your relationship is strained. Picture that person in front of you. Imagine their heart. And as you breathe, send these words. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you give and receive love. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you give and receive love. As you continue to breathe, I invite you to picture our world, the whole planet. From the towering mountains to the depths of the sea, all of the creatures within it. And send these words. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you give and receive love. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you give and receive love. Recall your attention to yourself. Notice your body. And if any particular part of your body is calling itself to your attention, breathe into that part. See if you can let that go. And as you feel ready, I invite you to open your eyes if you have not already opened them. Thank you. All right, we are past 11 o'clock. Good morning, Marian.
Good morning.
It is good to see you.
Yeah.
I closed my eyes and then I opened them and there you were. So that was lovely.
Unfortunately, I missed the beginning of your whatever you were doing. So
Oh, okay.
I just
All
sort of
recorded.
watched and listened.
It's all recorded.
Yes, so it's all on the recording, but we are actually at the point where we say goodbye. So.
You mean I missed the whole hour?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
It was at 10, so we're a little after 11
Which is
now.
9 o'clock my time. Yeah.
Oh my, I'm sorry.
But the
Uh-oh.
good news
Our
is
time zones?
I'll have to catch up, but I would like to meet, is it Ashia?
Asia.
Asia?
Yes. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Hi. Well, maybe I'll see you in 2 weeks if I get my act together.
Yep. You will.
All right. Well, it was lovely to see everyone for whatever portion of this you were here for. And I think we are ready to go. So thank you
Thank
all.
you.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks. 2
Right.
weeks. I'll remember that eventually. All right.
Thank everybody. Namaste.
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 Yeah.